Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Stephen and I'm a traditionally published fantasy author. Today I'm going to be doing a video I've wanted to do for a while, and this is about dealing with rejection. When you send your book out and it is rejected by one or many authors, how do you cope with that? So let's look at it practically to begin with, and I'll go on to the emotional stuff and I'll give you some tips at the end. Practically, if you think about it, most authors, those who are published, those you see on the bookshelves, have been rejected many times. Even the big well-known household names, anybody on your bookshelf, really the big name, Stephen King and J.K. Rowling and Dan Brown, whoever you want to cite, who sold millions of copies, all of them rejected many times by many agents. So you're not alone in this if you get rejected. Most authors who go the traditional publishing route, like me, were also rejected many times. The average time to get picked up is anywhere between 2 and 10 years. It can vary, depends how quickly you can send out another book. It depends how much you've learned between each book and you've progressed as a writer. It depends upon a lot of factors you can't control, such as the market, the mood, what the editors are looking for at that particular period in time. Luck plays a big role in it that you can't really do anything about. So there's lots of things that you kind of have to hope fall into the right place at the right time, but you do your best with what you can and hope that things work out. Staying with the practical side, if you think about agents, all of them get hundreds of submissions every week, thousands every year, and they have to look through this, which is called the slush pile. It's not a very nice name, but that's what it's called. This huge group of submissions, people sending in the first 5, 6 chapters, whatever it is they particularly asked for, and they have to read those as part of their job around all of the other work that they have to do for their existing clients. So let's say you followed all the rules and you've sent yours in. Agents have to go through all of those submissions, all of those chapters that everybody has sent in, and try and find something that's good, interesting, different, and that catches their attention. The other thing to think about is that it's completely personal there again. You could send a book to one agent and they say, no, it's just not quite right for me. And it goes to another agent and they say yes. So it's all about individual taste. Obviously, if you're sending your book in a particular genre, and that's the kind of genre that they've said they're interested in, you stand a much better chance. If you send your book to an agent that doesn't read your genre, and they specifically said, we're not interested in that, they'll just delete it and move on. They don't have time. They haven't got time to write back to you and say, this isn't what I'm looking for. They won't make an exception for you. So you need to kind of understand that, read the rules, and stick to the guidelines of what they've asked for. If you write to an agent and you get a rejection, if it's just a standard, no, this isn't right for us, sometimes, not always, sometimes you can ask an agent for more information as to why it wasn't to their tastes. Now, it's up to them. If they don't have time, then they won't be able to respond to you. If everybody asks for them more feedback, then obviously they just can't go through everybody's. But maybe when you get rejected, they might send you a little note with it and say what they liked and didn't like. They might just send you a standard form reply, in which case you could ask for more information. If they say no, then you say thank you very much and you leave it at that. You don't go after them, you don't harass them. And I shouldn't have to say this, but people are still doing this and going to agents and saying, well, you don't know what you're talking about. They do. This is their job. This is what they do for a living. They are professionals, so they do know what they're talking about. The fact that it isn't their personal taste isn't something that you can control. As I've said, you can send it to the next agent in the next building and they could absolutely love it and it could be perfect for them. What I would typically suggest is you send out your book in batches, maybe to half a dozen at a time, and that way, if all 6 say no, and you can try and get some feedback from them, you could then revise your book again, taking note of what people have said. Obviously, if all of the comments are completely different, you can't do much about that. But if all of them are saying the same thing, like they all say, the pace of the book is just really slow, I can't really get into it, it's just taking too long, then obviously that's something you should take note of and pay attention to. Do another edit of the book, and then you can send it out to another half a dozen agents. If you blast all of the agents, let's say there are 30 agents that handle your genre, let's say it's crime, and you hit all 30 at once, you can't then take that book back to the same agents again. Even if you've revised it, they won't, most of the time, they just won't look at it because they've already seen it. But if you do it in batches, a small group, and if you can get any feedback, great. Another reason to do it in batches is if you get some rejections initially, you could then ask some other people who haven't read it that you trust to have another look at the book and see if there's something that other people who read it for you earlier missed, or if something that you missed when you've been editing it. So it's just worth it not going all full blast, because once you've gone through all of the group of agents, you then have to start on a brand new book and you can't send that one out to them again. I want to talk a little bit about the emotional side of dealing with rejections. It is really, really difficult. It's really hard. If you don't know why a book has been rejected, that's probably the worst thing. I had that back at the beginning. Agents didn't send you any feedback. It wasn't even on email, it was through the post. And you'd get like a standard postcard with your name written in pen, and the rest was just printed, and it would say, "Dear so-and-so, unfortunately it's not for us on this occasion." And that was it. You never knew. You never had any feedback, any inkling whatsoever. Now, agents are a bit more approachable. You can contact them individually, you can talk to them, you can see them at events and ask for them, ask about do's and don'ts. Sometimes they're on Twitter and they do kind of things like Ask Agent, where you can ask them questions about do's and don'ts, things they like and don't like. And maybe that could help you steer for the people that you should send your book to initially, to try and find a good fit, because that's what you want. But dealing with rejection is hard. The best thing to do, I would suggest, is to take a break. Go and do something that isn't writing. Some people will say, "Well, get straight back onto the horse." But the problem is, once you've finished a book and you've spent all that time writing it and then editing it and polishing it and sending it out and waiting for it, it leaves me really kind of emotionally vulnerable and tired and exhausted. And you need time to rest and recharge yourself. So go out and do something completely different. Visit friends, talk to people, play games, do some exercise, whatever it is. Play with the kids if you really have to. Whatever it might be, just do something else for a while. At least 2 weeks, maybe even a month. Give your brain some time to rest and recharge and recoup, and then come back to it and start on a new book, because that's what you have to do. I had many books rejected many times before I was successful, and most other authors are the same before an agent says yes. The other thing to think about is that even if your first book gets picked up, and even if it sells fairly well, once it's gone out the door, the publisher and your agent will turn around to you and say, "So what's next?" Because writing is all about building up a career. It's all about creating a body of work. Most authors will do that. It's part of the process. There are a number of big authors you can, there again, look on your bookshelf. How many books have Stephen King or Dean Koontz or whoever you want to quote had out? They write because they love it. They're not writing to make money. Making money makes them possible for them to write full time, but if making money is the end goal, then I don't think you're ever going to really get there. The majority of published authors, traditionally published authors, have full and part-time jobs. So if you're doing it just to make money, then I would probably say stop now. But if you're doing it because you love writing, once you've done that book and it's been rejected and it's hard and you've got over the kind of emotional trauma of it, start working on the next book. Because it also shows agents that you are someone who is determined, who's not going to be put off and can deal with rejection and constructive criticism. Sometimes an agent will say, "This book isn't quite right for me, but," and it's that but you have to pay attention to. They might say sometimes, "This is quite good and I like it, I'll consider looking at it again once you've done another edit." And that's probably the best response you could have other than a straight yes. So it's not a binary thing of yes and no. There are things that can happen in between. You might be able to get feedback. You might get more information on why they didn't like it. And you might get a, "It's good, but it's not quite right for me." Or you might even get, "This book isn't right for me. However, I like your writing style. I like what you do. Please feel free to send me your next book." And there again, even though you got rejected, that's the beginning of a working relationship potentially with an agent. They've seen something in your writing. They've seen something in your style, your character, your dialogue, whatever it might be. They've seen something that they like, and that's a really good sign. So take heart from that and know that that's a first good step to move forward. As I said, I had lots of books rejected, and I've gone back and looked at them, and with hindsight, I've been able to see why they were rejected. Because you get better with every book that you write as well. That's the other thing to remember. Those who make it successful on their first book, wonderful. However, when you look at their 10th book and those kind of people, they'll be so much better than their first book, because everybody's constantly learning, and you learn by doing it over and over and over again. Every author progresses in the same way, whether they're picked up on their first book, their 10th book, or their 15th book, whatever it might be. The other thing you can do is talk to other writers, because misery loves company, and it's good to share in their experiences, talk to them about how they're feeling, how they're coping, and you can learn from each other, you can talk to each other, find a community, and they can help you through it, and you can help them through it, and that's what's really important, being part of a writing community, which you can find online so easily now, with people who are sharing your experiences. So that's all I'm going to talk about for today. Hopefully that's useful and it'll help you with rejections in the future if you get any. Like and subscribe to the channel if you can, that would really be appreciated, and I'll be back soon with another video.